Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. We are looking today at a ship that I absolutely had to feature for a couple of reasons. First of all, for those of you who have been around in the channel for a little bit, you may remember the banzai Akatsuki video, where effectively I was playing an Akatsuki, which is a torpedo boat stealth destroyer, not quite how it was supposed to be played. And that was great fun, but also to a degree because that was in tier 7. This is tier 8. The other reason I'm really keen to feature this ship is because of, well, the ship that it is. This is the Amatsukaze, a Kagero class destroyer, or rather because of who was the captain of this ship. Because this ship at some point in her career was captained by none other than Captain Hara. Tamiichi Hara, the author of the book this Japanese Destroyer Captain, which is one of the very few first original sources that we get out of the Second World War, and a first-person report on his career as one of the leading torpedo attack theorists and destroyer captains in the Imperial Japanese Navy. So not just anybody, but he was actually commanding this ship. And under his command, she was quite successful, especially in the Battle of Guadalcanal, when the Japanese were trying a night attack on Henderson Field and then ran face first into a whole bunch of American cruisers and destroyers. And in this action, Captain Hara and the Amatsukaze managed to sink a Benson-class destroyer and with torpedoes, and to get a torpedo in on Juno, which eventually led to her demise quite a little bit down the road. In the end, Amatsukaze was quite busy in multiple engagements throughout the Second World War, and even after Captain Hara was promoted and got a whole destroyer division of himself, Amatsukaze kept going until she was effectively blown in half by a submarine, and the torpedo triggering a magazine explosion, which led to the front half of the ship sinking. The rear half, however, outright refused to sink. So going by the mission of, well, if we have half a ship, if it floats, it's a ship, they kept going and effectively managed to get half of the ship back into port, where eventually after various further attacks she was scuttled. But a very famous ship in the Pacific Theater, and as such I'm quite excited to have her here, even though we don't actually get Captain Hara as a legendary commander. Wargaming, hello! That might be a good thing to do. It would have been a good idea to put her out with that in tandem, or, you know, sell for like $7.99 or something. I'm sure people would appreciate that. Anyway, Amatsukaze, Tier 8, Kagero class destroyer. We already had a couple of these, most famously the Yukikaze. So Yukikaze has kind of been the more fuel smoky, rushy sort of variant of the Kagero. Let's have a quick look at how these two compare, these existing two. So Kagero being the baseline here, the tech tree variant, she gets a very good engine boost and a single smokescreen. This is the Japanese torpedo boat destroyer line, so generally the way you're playing these things is by sneaking around without being spotted and just dropping torpedoes on people. Japanese torpedoes have a long range and they hit really hard. The Yukikaze trades the better engine boost for a slightly worse engine boost, and in return she gets 3 fuel smokes, and she even gets a sonar thrown into the mix, which makes her quite an aggressive ship in that regard. And she is a tick more maneuverable at the same speed though, with the same guns, and the torpedoes on the Yukikaze are distinctly worse than on the Kagero, so that is part of the price that she pays. Now the Amatsukaze is, and actually we're probably going to have to compare it to the Yukikaze because it's making more sense, The Amatsukaze is sort of the middle ground between the two. She doesn't get the fuel smoke 2, she only gets fuel smoke 1. So the fuel smoke 1 only lasts for 9 seconds, whereas the Yukikaze's fuel smoke 2 lasts for 12 seconds. She doesn't get a sonar. She gets, in return, a better engine boost, but only 2 charges of it. She is also almost about a knot faster than the Yukikaze, although not quite as maneuverable. And the high explosive shells have been slightly pushed down, but honestly that does not make a really big difference because you're not going to be using your guns an awful lot. It's usually an opportunity thing. So if you have a low health target that you can finish off with the guns, or if something that you have just torpedoed has damage controls, you count down 10 seconds and then try to set some fires. That's where you would usually use the guns. The torpedoes on the Amatsukaze, however, are very, very good. These things have a 5,100 points of alpha damage, and they reload faster than on the Yukikaze. They have a longer range, not quite the same speed as on the Kagero, and the same range, but getting close to it. So these long-lance torpedoes are significantly better than what you find on the Yukikaze. In terms of concealment, she is, again, kind of in the middle between her and Kagero. So we do have a sort of middle ground between the more aggressive style of a Yukikaze and the somewhat more pedestrian style of a Kagero, whereas the Yukikaze can at times be held back by the lack of torpedo alpha strike and the lack of speed if your engine boost isn't running, where the Amatsukaze has the better engine boost, the higher base speed, the torpedoes do a lot of damage, but the fuel smoke isn't quite as good and you only get 2 charges of it. So, how can we set this ship up then? You get the choice between additional torpedo damage and additional flooding chance, which is very tempting because these torpedoes are very, very good. That said, if you remember, I led the intro with, you remember the banzai heika. Max speed and acceleration it is, because this is a fun ship. We then have, let's actually look at the camos since we're here. I generally don't really go for the alternate camos because they can usually look quite atrocious. This one looks decent in a distinctly what we think Japanese stuff looks like sort of paint. The reason that I would actually prefer this over the historical camo, which looks significantly better, is that the historical camo gives us torpedo range, torpedo speed, and surface detection, and max traverse speed, all of them which are good things. The surface detection especially is something you want, and torpedo range not really that important, I think. With 9.3 kilometer base range, you have a lot of range on these torpedoes, and you usually can get a lot closer than that, but torpedo speed is a good one to have. However, the Serpent alternate camo here gives us 4% max speed in this ship, which is a really nice addition to the whole setup. So if you feel like playing this thing a little bit more aggressively, which you don't have to, but which you can, then having an additional 4% speed is a good thing. Equipment-wise, there are not many relevant choices in slot 1 for Japanese torpedo boat destroyers. You could always try and go for the Torpedo Tube Mod 2. English, Terry, do you speak it? But the torpedo tubes are already quite fragile on these things, and you do get them shot off more often than not if you are getting shot at, which you shouldn't be. So if you are playing completely stealth, then this is not a terrible choice to make. Just don't get shot at, because then you might lose your torpedo tubes. And the thing is, if you use a Damacon to fix a torpedo tube, first of all, you're losing a Damacon. Second of all, your torpedo tube has to reload from scratch because, it just got blown off, so you kind of fit it out again, which takes about a minute. So it's not that you repair your torpedo tube and then you have it ready again. No, you have to wait for a minute for it to reload, which can be massively frustrating if you are rushing a target that you would have had the torpedo alpha strike to sink, only to find out that it shoots off one of your torpedo tubes. Now it might be torpedoed and flooding, but it's now a very, very angry battleship and you're right next to it. So generally, I tend to instead use the main battery mode 1 for better traverse, or you could even use torpedo traverse, or even the aiming system mod for just the general traverse of everything. The choice is yours. There's really not too much of a difference between these things. Slot 2 is pretty clear. It's a destroyer, like in any other ship. There's very, very rarely any reason to not use propulsion mod 1, because the rest is basically mostly useless. And in slot 3, we obviously have the concealment system modification, because again, it's a destroyer. As tempting as it is to go for a full banzai build with the propulsion mod, this is tier 8, and people do tend to pay a little bit more attention. So let's be conservative here and play with concealment. So with all of that said, we have the base speed on this thing up to 38 knots. And this destroyer has a very good engine boost. Unfortunately, she only gets 2 charges of it. We have the torpedoes up to 9.6 kilometers, and with the speed improvement from the historical camo back to Kagerou's base value. The AA is inconsequential, and the surface detection, while not best in class, with 5.1 kilometers is very, very good. Now, captains. There are sort of 2 possible scenarios here. There's one for the 97% of us who do not have Gunichi Mikawa. And then there's one for the 3% who do, because Mikawa brings some very unique skills to the table. But let's quickly go through his legendary skills. The Torpedo Alert Plus gives you an extra warning for enemy torpedoes, which is nice to have, given that you don't have the sonar that you'd have on the Yukikaze, but you don't have that on the Kagero either. Obviously, Preheating Plus is very good, because that means you're even faster at the onset of the battle, and you can get into position very, very quickly in this ship. I quite enjoy Daredevil on destroyers, and he does get the Mistweaver Plus, which increases the duration, which on a fuel smoke is not particularly long, but it decreases the cooldown, which is kind of more important at that point. However, the most important skill is the Night Raid skill, because that gives us 1 engine acceleration and an additional smoke screen. Now, the Amatsukaze does not have a torpedo reload, so we don't need it, but it does give us an additional smoke and engine accelerator, and that makes a lot of a difference in how liberal you can be used and how aggressive you can be playing the ship, because you have an additional charge of the consumables. Talking about consumables, it would have been really nice to get the specialist skill for an additional skill usage again after getting the first strike medal. The problem is that this requires you to hit with the main battery 35 times, which means in order to get there, you kind of have to take a skill or have to take a talent that for stealth torpedo destroyer isn't all that useful. But if you want to sort of pay the price, this is a great skill to have. And if you can manage to grab the first strike, basically by ambushing an enemy destroyer or by rushing something early on, because you are going to be playing at the front lines, then that's a great one to have. However, I've gone with what I think is probably the more conservative choice for a destroyer build in talents at this point. The tactical shooter, which you get effectively, you'll be scouting anyway. So detecting 3 enemy ships is not hard, and you get an extra 3% range on the guns out of it, which for a torpedo destroyer, which doesn't use the guns very often, isn't hugely impactful, but it's useful if you, like I said earlier, need to finish off something, or if you want to set fires from long range where you can avoid being shot at. For a kill, you get 3% max speed and 3% turning, which is great. That's another good thing to get. And for 10 torpedo hits, you get the 6% torpedo reload reduction, which is nice. It's not hugely consequential, because, but it is reasonably easy to get halfway through the battle, and it can give you. It's not going to give you an extra torpedo salvo, not on a 60-second base reload. But it can make the difference between having your torpedoes ready when you need them and not having them ready when you need them. So this feels to me at the moment like something that you can work with quite well. You could also try to stack the exploit weakness here with where was it? There was another exploit weakness, but I think that was in one of the other trees. So there's the Tormentor skill would be something that stacks quite nicely with this as well. But yeah, there are options here for you when it comes to talents. Not too many people are going to be having them just now, except for those who have been playing so much on level 12 commanders that they have sufficient commander free XP to just level themselves through to the talents, or who are willing to pay the gold price. As we all know, money buys you everything except skill. So yeah, so if you have Mikawa, he does make a big difference, not because of the talents, the regular commanders get those as well, but because of the nitrate skill. Right, as usual, you will be getting 2 games, one with a regular commander, a regular level 8 commander, no talents, no nothing, and no historical camo, regular consumables. So sort of the everyday setup. And one with the fully decked out, let's see what happens if we throw everything possible into the ship build. Yeah, where did you get ship? Yes, it's in the Blitz Pass. And it's one of the choices in the Blitz Pass, I believe. So I think it's the second set here. So you get the choice between the Amatsukaze. You could get the Ise, and I would say definitely get the Amatsukaze over it, unless obviously you're not a destroyer player. Or you can get yourself the Tokachi, and I really can't remember what the Tokachi was all about, so I might have to rewatch my own videos to see what that thing was. I can't remember, but Ise is kind of nice, but it's a tier 7 battleship. There are pretty good battleships out at tier 7, and yes, it's a hybrid, but hybrids aren't as unique as they used to be, so I personally go for this ship just because of the fun factor for it. But anyway, enough talking. Let's actually see her in action. Round number 1 puts us up against Bismarck, North Carolina, a Amagi, a Mainz, a Cleveland, a Tennō, and an Irland, all on a domination battle. So 1 destroyer on the enemy team, but 2 extremely dangerous cruisers with the Mainz and the Cleveland when it comes to destroyers. And the Tennō can be quite a threat as well. So we'll see how this turns out, but we are top tier and there are no carriers, which means we can rush ahead quite aggressively because we are going to be relatively quick and we can outspot everything. I'm not too sure about the Irland, but I'm reasonably certain I can outspot that as well. So we're going to fire up the engine boost and we're going to get up to 43 knots. The plan here is, I have Hipper and Roma with me. The plan here is to take A and then potentially swing around to B, or depending on what comes into A, effectively do some area denial, get some spotting done for the battleships behind me and find them something to shoot at. We don't know yet where the Irland is because I am capping A and there's no other capture action. There is the Cleveland, however, and that is bad news because Cleveland is a radar cruiser and he should know that I'm here right now because he could see. So if he was paying attention and he would be using his radar, I would be in all kinds of trouble. So we'll get some torpedoes away in the general direction of these folks and just to keep them out of the capture circle, and we can send a second spread in the general group back there. Once we have, I think the first one probably missed, but we will get a second spread over into the group of ships that is over there. Once we are a little closer, Cleveland has been deterred because he has been spotted. So he's not rushing the capture circle, and we actually managed to land a hit somewhere. I'm not sure if it was Bismarck or I think the other one was the Tennō back there in that whole bunch, or the Mainz. Well, anyway, we'll send a second torpedo spread, and then we'll just keep shadowing everyone. We can't push into B because the Tennō is there. And by the looks of it, the enemy team is concentrating over here. So right now what we're going to be doing is we're going to do area denial and try to keep them outside the capture circle, because if we can keep them at bay while they're concentrating, then that's a good thing. Now, Cleveland is still dangerously close to me. If he was using his radar, I would again be in all kinds of trouble, with a Mainz, a Tennō, and the Cleveland sailing around there. Tennō probably has torpedoes away. And there is the Bismarck, who is leading the charge here. Is slowing down, probably saw my torpedoes incoming, does not have the sonar running. But I'm backing off here, so Bismarck dodged most of them, just took one torpedo. And the Cleveland is coming along, so I do have to be very, very careful not to get spotted. And I can't maintain capture control here because my team is heavily focusing C, whereas the enemy team is heavily focusing A and are now also controlling B. So again, we're dropping a torpedo in the general direction, just area denial. And can somebody please finish off that Cleveland? I really want to not be here when he remembers that he has radar and that there's a destroyer around the corner. So that Cleveland needs to die. And Roma is busy, but Roma is also sitting broadside onto basically the whole enemy team at this point. It's Bismarck. Let's get another torpedo away at Bismarck. Cleveland is on extremely low hit points, but I think he managed to get this attack-out torpedoes. I think he managed to get out of position. Okay, New Orleans takes him out. Unfortunately, I was about to take him out. That's why I fired my guns, which means unfortunately now the Bismarck can see me. That's a good time to use my fuel smoke because I should be out of sonar range of the Bismarck if he has it ready. Incoming fire immediately now that they've actually realized that I'm here. So time to use the engine boost and get the heck out of here before people get funny ideas. Let's see if we can, since we're spotted, might fire the guns anyway. But there's a Mainz, there's a Tennō, so do not stay around. Just keep running and get the heck out of here because that is more opposition than we can probably want to work with. Bismarck's managing to avoid 2 of my torpedoes, but I am now somewhat safe, I think, from the Mainz over there. Öland is now coming in as well, but the enemy team is finding itself in what we technically call a crossfire because there's a bunch of us over here, and there's the Roma and our friendly cruiser fighting a retreating battle, whereas the rest of my team has cleaned up Sea Cup and is pushing from that direction. So the enemy team is now somewhat crossfired, which is not an enviable position to be in. We have retaken B. There's still a Mainz out there, so again, I do not wish to be spotted. But I have a black New Orleans here, and I've got the Tennō, who has graciously reversed into the torpedoes that I sent this way. That Öland is on extremely low hit points. These should be Öland torpedoes, or Mainz torpedoes maybe at this range. Could be Mainz torpedoes, a bit slow for Ölands. Let's see if we can finish off the Öland. So fuel smoke up, and then we'll just gun him down from here. And probably should have used the armor piercing, but I had the high explosive loaded and the Öland is dead. Unfortunately, the Mainz is moving and is not running into my torpedoes. So let's see if we can finish him off with the guns as well. But I think probably New Orleans gets there first. Yeah, well done New Orleans. That just leaves the enemy Bismarck and one enemy battleship who in his frustration is still chasing the friendly, I believe it's the Hipper, who's been effectively drawing that battleship away from the game and is currently parked there behind an island. So the Bismarck is all alone. He has absolutely no chance of survival. I'm already going to go on an intercept course of that battleship over there and help the Hipper out and see if we can manage to get the Roffelstump medal for not losing a ship. But Hipper seems to know what he's doing. He's going behind the island. Bismarck is having absolutely no chance and is going down. And that leaves only whatever that is back there, who's trying to at least take the Hipper down with him, but through cautious use of an island, that battleship is about to. Hipper has a 5.4 kilometer torpedo range. If you're in a battleship and you get yourself torpedoed by a Hipper, you're not doing it right. So we are giving chase and just to help out and maybe save the Hipper if he decides that he needs to disengage. So I am in range, and that means it's an Amagi. Okay, I am actually going to drop torpedoes already. Hipper is dropping torpedoes from behind the island, which means that his torpedoes probably get there before mine. Now he is on low hit points, and the Amagi is shooting at him. Oh, that was close. So I'm debating with myself if I want to. I'm going to open up and maybe try to distract, but no need. Hipper's torpedoes have reached the Amagi first. And that is a very dead Amagi. And we do get the coveted Rufflestomp Overwhelming Victory Medal, which is very nice to have. So, so far, so Kagero, I would say. This is sort of more the traditional Kagero gameplay. The fuel smoke allows you to be a little bit more aggressive than you would otherwise be. And yeah, my commiserations to the Bismarck on the enemy team. You tried. Which brings us to round number 2, in which we are in a carrier game, and we are playing a domination on Sleeping Giant against a Chkalov. So a lot of throwaway planes, a Hipper, Zeton, Nelson, two Arpeggio Miyokos, I think, the Natchez one as well, and an Akatsuki. So mostly we're top tier, but it is a carrier game, so we do have to be a little bit careful about things. By the way, one thing that supremely annoys me is the change in ordering in the opening screen, because you used to get carriers, battleships, cruisers and destroyers in that order from top to bottom. Now it's all jumbled up, and it can at times be actually quite difficult to spot if you're in a carrier battle or not. I don't know if that's intended. I might have to complain to Wargaming about it. But we are now playing with Mikawa as a commander, which means we actually have 3 engine boosts and 3 fuel smokes. So that's nice to have. So let's go spot some ships. Now we do have to be careful because that is a carrier in play. So I'm keeping an eye on where the carrier is going. It looks like he's going straight ahead. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And I think my initial assessment there was incorrect, because he is sending the torpedo planes out to scout. So what I could have done is hang back here and wait out the torpedo planes. Instead, I will have to use a fuel smoke, because then he doesn't know I'm here. I mean, he does know I'm here because he sees the fuel smoke, but he's not going to be targeting me. So under normal circumstances, that would have been considered a waste of a fuel smoke. But in this particular case, I'm still going to get spotted. I'm not going to get spotted and torpedo dropped until I'm safely behind this island here, which is what I was trying to do, because there's a Miyoko out there. So this could have gone very, very badly if I had not used the fuel smoke, because I am taking fire from multiple cruisers, I believe, over there. That Nelson is out there somewhere. There's a Zeton. Yeah. I definitely do not wish to hang around here any longer than necessary. Fortunately, Zeton is firing high explosive with the secondaries, which is, there might be torpedoes in the water. So again, we will shadow the enemy team. And we have spotted enough ships, so that gives us additional speed, which makes us even more quick. We've got a 39 knots base speed now, so we're basically a Soviet destroyer at this point. There's that Nelson. So again, not a good position to get spotted in. Chkalov is backing behind the island, so no use torpedoing it. But yep, we're going fishing. If they all bunch up like that, what's a torpedo destroyer to do? Unfortunately, there come the fighters in, and while the friendly Indomitable is vectoring fighters in as well, that means I'm going to get spotted, which means there's a Nelson out there. Nelsons might have high explosive loaded, so no, I do not wish to stick around here. I am just going to try get out of the detection range of the fighters. There we go, now we are unspotted, and it looks like the friendly Lucatarigo is going after the Chkalov, which is nice. So let's see if we can do something about the Nelson, who may have forgotten that I'm here. Let's observe him for a little bit and see where he's actually going. He is getting airdropped. He looks like he's slowing down, so I'm going to drop torpedoes a little bit behind and see if he maintains the sort of bow-in position that you normally would in a Nelson. Then we're going to use our engine boost, and we are going to... He is permafire, or he hasn't used his Damacon. Not sure, haven't paid attention, but he is taking a couple torpedoes. Unfortunately, yeah, 3. Well, could have been more, could have been less, but yeah. The enemy team is already 2 ships down. We're holding 2 of the capture circles, and I am now flanking around the Nelson in the rear, but the Chkalov is engaging the Lucatarigo. He's not running away from the Luca, but the Miyoko comes in for the rescue. So that is an opportunity. Now, there is an opportunity to get a kill on the Nelson, but the friendly carrier is focusing the Nelson down, and I'm unspotted again. So Luca is probably, Luca is not surviving this. So I'm going to fuel smoke up and see if we can finish the job here, take down the Chkalov, and maybe land some torpedoes on the Miyoko since we're at it, and then we're going to make ourselves scarce. And I do not wish to be shot at by Miyoko. Miyoko is slowing down, so he is not running into all the torpedoes, but he's running into enough of them to trigger my my commander skill, which means we have a 6% improved torpedo reload at this point. And the Miyoko, I think, has just Damacond, so Indomitable finishes him off. So Miyoko is done for. That just leaves 2 ships. Carrier is killed. Well done, team. And let's see if we can still have a little bit of impact in the battle. There's the Indomitable, but and there's the Tseton. So yeah, there's another thing we can rush here. I still have a fuel smoke left because again, Mikawa is a commander, gives me an additional fuel smoke, and at this point there's no more need for stealth. We can go Tennō, heika, banzai. Tseton has run into an island. It's only the auto secondaries opening up. There is a Coronel Bolognese coming in, and the Indomitable, as usual, is spoiling the fun here by just bombing the living hell out of that Tseton, and all that juicy hit points that I wanted to actually get for myself is going away. But Tseton probably disengaging from the island now in case he pays attention, because he has torpedoes. I'm going to use the fuel smoke. It's not that I have to save it up for anything. Torpedoes out, and the Bolognese has gotten torpedoes out as well. But I think he got in a little early, so I didn't get the full amount of damage in that I would have otherwise, but there we are. And that, my friends, is the Amatsukaze. A very, very fun variant of the Kagero, and very hard-hitting torpedoes with the right loadout, with the right captain, can be an extremely fun ship to play. And even just with a regular captain, it's still a good Kagero variant. I'll take fuel smokes over regular smokes any day in these ships, and I'm really happy about the amount of speed that you can tickle out of this thing. So a very, very fun ship if you like to play a little bit more aggressively, and even if you're just a stealth torpedo boat player, still a good one to have. So if you are in there for the Blitz Pass, that is a ship that I can recommend. It's a fun Tier 8 destroyer, and that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.